Okay, this video we're going to be going over some different forms of communication with inside of Kinzer. Namely, we're going to be going over yellow notes, purple notes, and missed visits. The yellow and purple notes are two forms of communication that we use to send information from our front office or from the home health agency to our therapist. And then missed visits are there for us to document when we are unable to fulfill the frequency that was signed by the doctor. And so we're going to start with the yellow note. The yellow note is a one-time communication for the visit for which it is in place for. So right here I've got a schedule pulled up. It's a fake schedule. If I hover over the yellow note here, it says MD has appointment, or patient has an MD appointment at 10 a.m. And then further down, I've got another yellow note here recommending 12 visits, diagnosis, high blood pressure, AFib, diabetes, left total knee replacement. So if I actually click on the patient itself, we go inside the note, the actual yellow note disappears. So the one place that you would be able to see this information is going to be from your Hotbox. There's really no other place that you can see it. There's another place inside the software where our front office can go in and actually see a full day's worth of yellow and purple notes. But for the therapists themselves, where you would go to find this information is inside your Hotbox, which is where I'm at right now. And so if you had 5 patients on a day and you were going to see them before you entered the patient's house, or really as you were making the schedule the night before, you would look to see what information was given to you in these yellow notes. Fairly important stuff is given here. We try not to put stuff in here that's not important. So down here, I've got a yellow note, call home health agency regarding continuing care into the next episode. That would be for this visit on this day. So it's really important that I see that so that I make sure that on that visit, I call the home health agency. Another yellow note here reminding me that this may be the 30-day reevaluation. Going back here to this yellow note, if I see this the night before, I know that if I'm going to call and schedule the patient, I'm not going to be able to see them probably really before 10 a.m. because they'll be getting ready and traveling to the doctor, and really probably up until lunchtime they won't be able to be seen. And so this patient, if I was going to see him on this day, would have to be in the afternoon or rescheduled to a different day. So yellow notes, once again, are for one-time events with inside that one visit. A purple note, on the other hand, is really meant for you to be able to see on every single one of your visits, so it'll carry over. And so 45-minute treatments, this was a good example of what would be in a purple note, so that when we go out there, we know that there's maybe for the payer source, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield is an insurance company that does bill out and pay in 15-minute increments. And so maybe the agency requires a 45-minute or 1-hour treatment for billing purposes. This is where we would go to see it at. And so really helpful. It could be a gate code into an apartment complex. It could be a number of different things, but it would be something that you would need to know on every single one of your visits before you went in. And so reviewing the yellow and purple notes prior to going into a visit is fairly critical. By not reading it, you will run into issues of either contacting a patient during a time that you shouldn't have, or finding yourself sitting stuck outside of an apartment without a gate code when it was sitting here in the purple note the entire time. So make sure that you review these. And lastly, we're going to go over missed visits. So missed visits are really important. First, I want to define what a missed visit is. If we go out and attempt to see a patient on a Monday and they're not able to be seen, and we move that visit to a Tuesday, that's not a missed visit. A missed visit is only written when we are not able to capture the visits that were meant to be captured during that Medicare work week. The vast majority of Medicare work weeks start on a Sunday and end on a Saturday. There is the rare exception where a home health agency actually has a Medicare work week start on a Monday and end on a Sunday. But for the vast majority and for the purpose of this video, I think it's best to conceptualize a Medicare work week always starting on a Sunday and ending on a Saturday. So day 1 of the work week is on a Sunday. If the frequency is 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, we have to get in those number of visits in that week. In home health, we cannot do what is common in outpatient, which is to just ask for a block of visits in a loose period of time and then play around with the work weeks to get those accomplished. So let's say we're going to see the patient 12 times over the next month. We could go a whole week without seeing them and then see them 5 times in 1 week, and we would still be in compliance with that prescription. In home health, we have to write very specific frequencies. So you'll see frequencies 2 times a week for 6 weeks, 3 times a week for 4 weeks, 2 times for 8 weeks. And if we get outside of that Medicare work week and we don't capture those 2 visits on a two-week 8, we can't just move a visit into the following week. We have to write a missed visit. So in this case, I'll walk us through an example. This patient that I'm hovering over right now didn't want to be seen on Tuesday. And so as opposed to writing a missed visit, I move him to Wednesday. And within Kinzer, it happens that easy. I'm back on them on Wednesday. Something happens on Wednesday. They can't be seen. I move them to Thursday. And as you can see, it's moving real time. And so I get to Thursday. They've got 2 visits. I'm unavailable to go out on Saturday. And so when I miss on Thursday, what we should have done is when they were up here on Tuesday is right before we moved them. So this is the visit again, is we would have went into the patient's chart and we would have written a communication. So we would have went to file, new communication. And this doesn't take but just a second. We would have just typed in here, patient not feeling well, whatever the reason was the patient wanted to move the visit. Could have been not sleeping well. It could have been, a doctor's appointment they forgot about, or maybe they got called in to give some blood work and they just had to go during the time in which we were scheduled to go out there. So you'd write a communication which would go to the patient's chart, and it really gives a better story as to maybe the compliance or the overall situation. Maybe the patient's fairly ill, and if they miss 3 visits in a row over a 2-week time period, those are all going to show up on missed visits. But what would show up even better is if we were attempting Monday through Friday and every day they were saying that they weren't feeling well. It would just paint a better picture as to what's going on. So writing a communication when a patient moves a scheduled visit is not a bad idea. And so we go back to our hot box. And so back to the scenario in which this patient gets all the way to Thursday. We have something going on personally on Saturday. We're not able to get out there. And so Thursday, it's time to write a missed visit. We're going to go ahead and go over to the little orange house here with an X on it. Let me go back one step. We'll go back and we're just going to click on the house with the X on it. And then so we have to fill this section out. So travel to the patient's house. We either did or did not. I'm going to say that we didn't. If you say that you did, you've got to give a time in which you attempted so that they can, verify. This would go to the home health agency and they would be able to verify, call the patient and say, therapist went out there and they tried to knock on your door at 10 a.m. This just gives them more information. But I'm going to say we didn't go out there. The date is the date that the visit was scheduled. We'll give a reason if one of these applies. If it's not, you can type in other. But let's just go ahead and say it was due to a hospitalization. And then under here, it's very important that we actually say that who we spoke with at the home health agency. Each one of these missed visits needs to be called into the home health agency. So in this situation, patient admitted to St. Luke's March 5th, 2018, due to a fallen home, spoke with Sarah at the home health agency. We'll reeval after DC from hospital. Very important that we give the home health agency, or we give the missed visit, the proper amount of information that's needed. Not sufficient enough to just type in patient hospitalized and then send the missed visit in. We need to always, in this situation, give as much information as we can. So where the patient went to the hospital, the date that they went, the reason if we know it. But of all of this, the most important thing is the fact that we spoke to somebody at the home health agency and then recording their name. So in this situation, spoke to Sarah at the home health agency. Underneath orders generated, we can say no. Under MD notified, always check yes. For the sake of it, most home health agencies are going to fax it, but fax or phone is sufficient as far as the way they were communicated with. We are not actually as a therapy company going to reach out to the doctor, but home health agencies absolutely have to report these missed visits, and so fax or phone will work. We'll say fax. And then supervisory notified, you can always say yes to that, because in-house we're always going to get this in our QA box. So we're always going to get this information before it goes to the health agency. And so that's your way of communicating with us. And you can say other, and you can say, Kinzer. or EMR software, anything you want to type in underneath how the supervisor was notified. And then you're just going to electronically sign it, date it, and send it in. So that is how to record a missed visit and the information that's required to record a missed visit and when it's appropriate to record a missed visit, and then a description of the yellow and purple notes. All right, guys, I hope y'all have a good day, and I will see y'all on the next video.